folks, and welcome to Babin's Bees. We're doing an inspection today, and today is May 15th, and it's a beautiful day. It's about 15 degrees out, and when we look at the long-range forecast, we see that it's going to be in the high teens for the whole week, and lows at nighttime above 10 degrees. So that's optimal weather for bees. Of course, we know that when it's under 10 degrees, they kind of cluster together to stay warm, but over 10 degrees, they're more moving around than they're out and about doing the things that they like to do. Forage for food, they want that pollen, they want that nectar. What we're noticing in the hives right now is that it's getting a little bit cramped. And really when you're at that stage, so the queen is laying well, she's, there's lots of capped brood, you wanna open up your hive. You wanna make sure that there's room, because if it's too tight, what they're gonna do is they're gonna wanna swarm. They're gonna say there's not enough room here. We're just starting to ramp up for the season and we're not gonna have any place to lay egg, and they're gonna start to put some swarm cells and they're gonna try to swarm. So you wanna try to avoid that, of course, especially before the peak of your nectar flow, which is when they're gonna bring in lots of nectar and you're gonna get some honey. Things are starting to bloom here in Nova Scotia where we are. The trees have bloomed. We're seeing lots of pollen coming in, which is really great. The nectar is just starting to flow. The apple blossoms are just starting to bud now, and they're going to bloom very soon. And then we have lots and lots and lots of honeysuckle on our property, and they're going to be starting to really ramp up with the nectar. So in order for them to get ready and to ensure that they don't swarm, we're taking a look at the hive, and what we've noticed again is that there's a lot of capped brood. So we're gonna wanna open up that hive. So we're gonna take a closer look and we're gonna show you some of the capped brood, and we're going to make some decisions about what's the best thing to do to make sure that they've got plenty of room for that queen to lay and make sure that they don't swarm. So we'll start to take a peek and look. This, of course, is just a piece of wax more towards the back, and there's nothing going on there. That'll be a place for them to store some nectar, which is great. And we'll take another peek here, kind of the same situation here. And it's really in the brood nest that you want to take a peek and look and see, is it too tight? Is there a place for that queen to lay? When we look at this bar here, we'll just move some of the bees out of the way, and we'll show the top part. You can really see some of the nectar coming in, that shiny liquid, and I'll just kind of move the comb a bit just to make sure that you get a chance to see it. But that shiny liquid is nectar. So they've gone out and they've gotten that from different plants and trees, and they're bringing that back to the hive, which is great. Then of course the colors that you see right here is what we call bee bread. So the bees go out and they forage pollen and they bring that back, and then they put some enzymes in there and they pack it in nice and tight, and they use that for food. It's really important for the bees. So that's a really good sign. So we're going to put that one back, which is great. So more towards the back is where the food is kept, and then more towards the front is where they start to lay, is where the queen lays her eggs. And so we're starting to see some brood here. So I'm just gonna move the bees out of the way so you can have a better look. So if you take a look here, this kind of fuzzy orangey yellow color, that means the queen has laid an egg, and the bees fed that and fed the larva with some royal jelly, and then they've capped that, and these are all going to be female bees that are going to hatch out. You can see the real nice pattern here. It's solid. There's a couple of holes there, but we'll take a peek and see in those holes. And inside those holes, which might be hard to see, but we'll do a shot right around here, is that you will see some larvae in there, and you'll see some eggs. So that means that the queen is really using and maximizing all of those cells to be able to lay egg, which is a really, really good sign. And again, this bar would be really at the edge of the brood nest. So we anticipate to see more. If we flip it on the other side, we'll just tap the bees out a little bit. And we can see there's more here too. Now, just make notice of this little bump right here, and that's a really interesting cell. And what that is that's a male bee, a drone. So we know the male bees are bigger than the female bees, so they need a bit more space. And here's a drone right here. So you can see if you just follow my finger, well, he's kind of scurrying away right now. But this guy right here on my finger, that's a male bee. So they're bigger than the female bees and they have no stinger. So the males do not sting, only the females sting. So they need a bit more room, and that's why you saw the little bump out there. So that's a really nice bar of brood. So that's great. Seeing what we need to be seeing here. And we take this one out as well, and we can see a really nice pattern here of the queen where she's laid. Now you'll notice there are holes there, but again, in those holes, if we take a closer look, we do see there's either egg in there or a larva in there, which means she's using all of those cells, which is great. It's what we want her to be doing. Just move them, tap them gently, and they'll kind of scurry away, just so we can see a little bit better, which is great. And we'll take another bar out just to see how well she's doing. Just going to move some of the bees out of the way. And again, you can see there's a really nice pattern here too. Now there are quite a few holes, and again, when you look in the holes, we are seeing egg and we are seeing larva in there. So that's a really good sign. It's not that she's laying in a spotty pattern. It's just that some have already hatched out and she's relayed there. I'm just going to double check that to make sure. And we do see some egg in there. It's kind of dark and probably too dark for the camera. One thing too is that as you're looking at your cells, you want to make sure that the sun is at your back. And the reason that you do that is that the sunshine will go right into that cell and it'll make it a lot easier for you to see. So that's why I'm turning my back. The sun is to my back, and we just take a quick look. Let the sun shine in there. And then I can see some egg in there. And again, I think just too dark to be able to see with the camera for now, but it's good to take a look. You want to make sure that your queen is not laying in a spotty pattern. You want to see that nice solid covering of brood. But if you do see holes, take a peek and see, are there some egg in there or larva? It just means that they've already hatched out and she's relayed, which is great. And then as we take a look at this one, I think we might be able to see inside here what I'm talking about a little bit better. If we get a really good close-up in there in those holes, and you'll be able to see that there are some larvae in there, kind of a white, you see like a little white bug in there, and that's the larva. And so, you know, again, where there's kind of uncapped, the queen has gone back because they've hatched out and she's laid again. So that's a great thing for sure. So we can put this one back. We'll take a look at this one. And this is more towards the front. Typically in the front of a top bar hive, what happens is that they save that for food. It's kind of like that quick pantry that maybe we have where we can grab a snack. That first bar typically is food. It's usually nectar and pollen. And then you have your brood nest, and then you have kind of the bulk of your food towards the back. Because we're seeing, you know, 4 or 5 bars of capped brood, we want to open this up a little bit because there's nowhere else for the queen to lay. So you have a couple of choices. If this is your first year and your bees are building wax, meaning you have no wax or empty wax to give them, then go ahead and drop a bar in. Now, you don't want to drop 2 empty bars together because it may cause them to cross comb, and then it'll be very difficult to take that 1 bar out at a time. But if you do have some leftover wax from your previous season that they can use, and the wax is nice, it's clean, go ahead and drop that in. It saves them from building that wax. They'll just be a little bit quicker. So we actually do have some wax left over. So as I put this hive back together, I'm gonna drop in an empty bar. So maybe we'll just watch that. So we'll come in closer. We're gonna just go ahead and put this back together. Now, a lot of folks use smoke on their hives, and we certainly have used smoke as well. What smoke will do, you know, for the beekeeper, when you're putting your hive back together, it draws them down so that you're not crushing any bees. What we do find in a top bar hive though is that you can just kind of blow where that opening is, and they'll go right down. especially if you eat a lot of garlic the night before, then they definitely drive down. A little bit of humor there. And that gives you an ability to be able to put this a little bit tighter. Now, what I'm going to do, again, is that if I had no wax to give them, I'd slip in an empty bar. So there's a little bit of a ridge here, and what they do is they make the wax off of that ridge. But I do have some wax left over from the previous year that that we can give them. So I'm going to slip this in. Now it's a little bit dark, and some people might question, well, why is it dark? It's only dark because when bees hatch out, they leave just a little bit of perhaps that cocoon behind, and it does stain the wax. And of course, as bees go out and forage, they got pollen on their feet, it does make your wax that was once very yellow, and in some cases almost white, to a darker color. There's nothing wrong with this wax. There's nothing wrong with a darker wax. It's okay to go ahead and drop it right in. So I'm gonna do that, and then when we do our inspection the next time, we're gonna see, has the queen used it to lay some egg, and we'll suspect that she will. But the goal here really, folks, is that you wanna make sure that they have enough room. Now, you wouldn't do this if it's really cold at night, because they need to be able to cluster together. But there's enough warmth now that they'll be fine. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna drop in this comb, and it's gonna give the queen more room to lay. So this is what we're doing here. And I may drop in 2, and then I'll separate that. So I'll have 1 bar full of brood, put in an empty bar or an empty comb that has nothing laid in it, put up another bar that does have some brood, and drop in another one. So in this case, we're gonna give them 2 extra bars. It'll really help ramp up this hive to be ready for when the nectar flows. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope that it's been helpful to you, and good luck in your beekeeping, and we'll see you in the next video.